Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today's drawing we're going to do an onion. I put an onion onto a chopping board, chopped it into halves, and I've included the knife on the chopping board as well. Now today we'll be using the normal HB pencil plus a 2B pencil for today. I thought I'd let you see the difference between drawing with a 2B and an HB, an eraser and of course a pencil sharpener. And you will need some copy paper or a sketchbook or any plain paper. Now this is a photo, I printed off the photo after I set up the composition, and this is a black and white photo, and I'm going to show you how I think about drawing the composition. So I'm going to go around the whole outline first, not doing individual things, just the outline. And in my mind, when I'm drawing, this is how I think about it. I think about it in two phases. I think about the outline of the total composition, and then I think about the outline, the space in between the objects within the composition. And then from those two, you actually get the shapes of the objects as well. So this is the outline of the entire composition. You'll see it does make a mark on the paper underneath, but I'll replace that before I do the drawing. Now I'm going to draw the spaces in between the objects. In retrospect, of course there's always something wrong, I should have overlapped the composition, like the onions should have overlapped each other, because it would have made a better composition rather than having things isolated. So I'm just drawing the spaces in between the onion, which include the chopping board. So not drawing the objects, but that space that I have just coloured in. So I had to take out the 2 sheets of paper which the ink had gone through on, and now I am doing my initial sketch, trying to think about the overall shape. And it's nice if you're using a chopping board or a tray or anything like that, if you have things that kind of come out of that frame that the tray or chopping board make. So thinking about the space in between each of the objects. And if you draw the space in between the objects and the outline of the whole composition, then you've actually drawn the objects. Coming back and refining them each time, and keep refining them till you're happy with the outline. Don't be afraid to use your eraser. I mean, you can do without it and just carry on until the end, and then if you want you can rub out the lines that the mistakes you made, or you can just keep them to add to the drawing. So going back and refining the outline of the whole composition again now, and again. So I do keep going over the lines again and again. And it is starting to come together now. So now I've got everything basically in the places that I think they should be, I'm coming in and just refining my drawing of the objects as well, and the space in between the objects. Remember, no shading in at this point. At this point we're still making a contour drawing. So exactly the same way as you would do if you were drawing for a watercolour or a coloured pencil drawing, or any drawing you were going to colour in. You first of all need your contour drawing, and then you come in with your paint or your colours, whatever you're using. Coming in now and adding more detail to the contour drawing, I'm drawing in the rings in the side of the onion that is uppermost. And then doing some detail on the other half of the onion. And just refining the outline of the knife. And just to define the outlines more, I'm going to use my 2B pencil to go over all the outlines just to make them clearer. So this is the outline of the entire composition first. And then I'm coming in and outlining the spaces in between and the objects themselves. So here is my contour drawing finished, ready to start shading. I'm starting shading in the centre of the onion just because I thought that's where I'd start. It doesn't matter where you start. But all the time I'm thinking about what is the darkest thing in the picture, what is the lightest thing in the picture. And the lightest things will be the highlights on the knife itself, and the darkest things will be the lowlights on the knife itself and the reflections. So these will all be midtones here. And the onion, the face up bit of the onion was quite pale, but it did have some definition. When I looked at the photo afterwards, I thought really maybe I should have chosen a white chopping board or something lighter, because the onion and the chopping board are a very similar tone, so it is difficult to make them show up. But I felt quite happy in the end with my drawing that I'd made them show up, maybe more than they had in the black and white photo. I'm coming in here and putting some detail in that upturned onion. And just look at all the little lines that go down it and the bits where the skin has actually come off. They will make interesting patterns and just give it a more real feel. Now again, where the onion touches the surface of the chopping board, there will be a shadow made by the onion, which will be its darkest place, and that all gives it a sense of reality. So remember, all drawing is just an illusion. You are trying to show something in 2 dimensions, which is exists in real life in 3 dimensions. I'm coming in and shading some of the wood on the chopping board. And because the wood is actually, I think it's bamboo, but it's made up of kind of slats like a butcher block all glued together, it makes quite a nice pattern, and there are dark bits and light bits in it. I set up this composition in the kitchen, and I then took a photo, and I think the light source is kind of from overhead but slightly to the right. Now the knife, I think, is the most fascinating thing in this entire composition because it has so many reflections, and you'll see in a minute how I come to draw those. And I suppose, again, it's my love of reflections, like you get in water and like you get in metal and windows, glass. So I am including one of my favourite things. And if you think about metal, knives, forks, spoons, anything metal that has a strong reflection, it's very shiny, then you're actually drawing not the colour of the object, but you're drawing the reflections that make the colour of the object. And it was quite a nice shape, this knife. So coming in and just putting in some of the darker lowlights, but reserving the whites. And each different plane on the knife will give you different highlights and lowlights. And the handle is kind of rounded, but then the blade is flat. But the transition between the two is like a little hills. It makes quite a nice shape. It's kind of a wedge shape. There, I'm doing it now. Don't forget that it has a shadow. If I've said that my light was coming from the right, then that shadow wouldn't be right, so that must be coming more from the left. So sorry about that. Yeah, you can also see the shadow from the chopping board itself on the work surface. To set this photo up, I actually put a large piece of paper, white paper, and used that as kind of the wall. I leant it up against the wall and then sat the chopping board on it so that you could only see white, and that just makes a much easier background if you're drawing something. You don't get distracted by what's in the background, and particularly when you're beginning, that makes it much easier. Now I'm going back in and refining all those layers in the onion. just giving them a little bit more clarity and definition. So it's coming together now, but I have lost some of the highlights on my knife. So I'm going to come in with something different today. I'm going to use an electric eraser and also a mask, and on the left is a block for sharpening the eraser. So here I'm using the mask, and this is the electric eraser or battery operated eraser, and this is what I use for sharpening it. I also use these blocks, these sandpaper blocks, for sharpening pencils, just to make the tips really sharp. These masks are really useful because they have lots of different shapes on them. So I'm putting the mask down and then I'm going to erase through it. These are both made by Derwent, which is quite a famous pencil maker, and it's quite good. The only thing I would really like, I would like to see a transparent mask so that I could see exactly where it was I was erasing, but I haven't seen any for sale anywhere. I've only seen the metal kind. And here I'm coming in just doing a bit of freehand, making a highlight. And the masks are really good because they have different shapes on them, and you can use these circles for taking out the highlights in an eye. If you've kind of smudged over it, they're very good for that. So if you can get hold of one of these, they're not expensive and they really are quite fun to use. But I do find it much better if you sharpen the point with some sandpaper or a nail file. And to do that, you would turn the eraser on and place it at an angle on your abrasive surface. So here I'm just taking out some highlights within the onion and the top of the onion as well. And then putting in some more dark bits. At this point I thought it was finished, but I went away, and when I came back I decided that the chopping board needed to be darker. So I've come back in and I'm now going to make the chopping board darker. It's one of those questions of when is my drawing finished, and it's a very hard one to answer. And if you go away and then come back and look at it, then you might decide, well, no, actually I could do a bit more. But you have to be careful not to overdo it, because you can overwork a drawing. Just again adding some shadows and some little bits to try to make that onion pop out. And also to show some of the kind of where one piece of wood joins another in that butcher block type effect. And more shadow. So we are coming to an end. Now next week I will be doing how to draw a face, so please come and join me for that. And I hope you've enjoyed my video, and if you have, please like, share and subscribe to see more. Stay safe, stay well, bye!